Hi, Shepherd's Pie. Greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel for a coffee and a chat. I want to have a little talk today about something that I touched on a couple of weeks back in one of my videos. I'm going to take my glasses off because they are there's a reflection. First of all, I'm going to apologise. I'm back in the kitchen. The reality is the roosters have beaten me. They forced me inside. It's a real piss take, to be honest. The people across the road, when we first moved in, they had 2 or 3 roosters. Now they've got God knows how many, but they are pushing it, shall we say. Now, someone did comment a while back, oh, it's easy. Just give them 5,000 pesos per rooster and tell them, to get rid of them. Yeah, probably the most stupid idea I have ever heard in my life. If you actually did that in a place like the Philippines, suddenly every house that didn't have roosters would suddenly have roosters on the basis that they're hoping you're going to give them money to get rid of them. And it would never stop. So we haven't done that. I have just conceded defeat and moved into the kitchen. So anyway, yeah, I did a video a couple of weeks back basically saying that I might put it in the description link in case anyone's interested who hasn't seen it, that don't plan to move to the Philippines, don't put it off, do it, make it happen, because you never know how long you got. Best laid plans of mice and men. Put off, tomorrow never comes, etc., etc. Seize the day, carpe diem, and all those other good quotes. And I will apologise in advance today because I have already done the thumbnail for this video, which is very unusual for me. And I have used a few gambling references in the thumbnail. So therefore, to make the thumbnail appropriate, I am going to use lots of gambling metaphors in this video, lots of references to gambling terms, just so it ties in with the video. So I apologise for that in advance. So yeah, the reason I'm making another video on this subject is I was not surprised. I get where they're coming from. They struck home to me, some of the comments in the comment section. I love your comments. I appreciate the comments. I enjoy reading them. Some I agree with, some I don't. And there were several comments which I say struck home with me because I've been in that situation where people were saying it's a big gamble to move to the Philippines. If you go there, it's very difficult to come back, because I was advocating that it might be a good idea, rather than to keep saving and planning and planning and planning, to come to the Philippines while you're still healthy, while you're still enjoying your best years, to come here for 1 or 2 years, to experience what it's like living here, not waiting until you've saved up, enough to retire here permanently, to give it a go first. Find out if it's really for you. Live here and get an accurate idea of what your living costs will be, what life is like. And then, if it is for you, go back and start working and saving for it. If it's not for you, you've learned a valuable lesson. And the suggestion was, from a number of comments, that was a big gamble. It was very risky. That if you gave up your job in your home country, let's say the USA, particularly if you're in your 50s, that it was a gamble going back, because you might not be able to get a job back, and you could end up in a really bad situation. Now, first of all, the reason that struck home with me was that reminded me of when I was in the Air Force, because I signed up for 9 years. It was always my intention to serve my 9 years, and it was always my intention to leave at the end of those 9 years. Never did I intend to sign on and do the full 22 years. It was not something that I ever intended to do or thought about doing, which made me quite unusual, certainly in my trade, because virtually nearly all the people I joined up with and served with were in it for the long game. They wanted to do the whole 22 years. Weren't that many who, like myself, had no intention of staying on long term. There were in some other trades. There are some technical trades and obviously pilots and things like that. They join to get qualified to get trades so they can go out to high paying jobs when they finish in the Air Force. So they don't do their full time. But I was always going to do my 9 years and go. Even if I hated it. If I say I'm going to do something, I always try and do it. Like my 2 years in the Philippines. I will see out my 2 years in the Philippines. But anyway, I digress. The point is, as it came closer to the 9 years, even though I had made it clear I wasn't going to sign on again, I kept getting comments from my bosses. You know, when are you going to sign back on again? You know, the boss thinks it's strange you haven't signed back on yet. You know, what are you playing at? You're going to leave it too late. Like I said, I'm not going to sign back on. I don't want to sign back on. I want to go. Which was surprising they were being like that, because most of them didn't like me, but there you are. But it wasn't just the bosses. It was the colleagues. It was people I knew and worked with. And it's when I went to other bases and people there found out that I was leaving, you would get a lot of, wow, that's brave. You know, it's not very nice on Civvy Street, as we call it these days. You know, I wouldn't take that risk. You know, you're giving up a good job. How do you know you'll get a better one? You know, when you leave, you know, you're taking a hell of a risk. Are you sure you want to do that? And I didn't view it that way. I had it in my mind that I was going to go on to bigger and better things. Whether I did go on to bigger and better things is in the eye of the beholder. Some might say I did. Equally as many would say I didn't. You know, it depends what you're looking for in life. But the point is, I was not daunted about leaving. Now, I was a younger man then. A lot of these comments seem to think because you were in your 50s, it becomes riskier. Now, I would argue, I don't think that's the case. They did have an argument when I was in the Air Force, because that was a job for life if you wanted it to be. Unless you screwed up, as long as you were reasonable at your job, you could do the full 22 years. You weren't going to get kicked out. You weren't going to get made redundant. But jobs for life have gone now. I mean, I would argue that it's potentially a bigger gamble staying in your home country, in the sense that you are gambling with your happiness. Because I should have said at the beginning, I'm not talking to people in this video who have reached retirement age, who are planning to come to the Philippines. I'm talking to people who are, I don't know, 40s, 50s, 60s, who say in the comments, as I frequently get, how unhappy they are in their home countries, how desperate they are to save up enough money and leave. These are the people I'm talking to. If they don't do that, if you do choose to stay in your home country for another 5, 10 years, well, I say you're gambling with your happiness. Only at the end of the day, you are desperately unhappy. And you are gambling on the fact that you'll still have good health in 5, 10 years' time. You're gambling on the fact that it will still be an option to come to the Philippines, because things can change. You know, it can become harder to get visas and things. You're taking a gamble. And it seems to me you are gambling on the assumption that you will have a job in America or the UK or whatever, that you won't lose it. Because in this day and age, you can't be sure of anything, I don't think. How are you sure that the job you've got now, you're still going to have in a year's time, especially the way countries' economies are going now? So that's why I'm making this video. I don't understand necessarily, or I do understand what people are saying. I value their viewpoint. But to me, I don't think it's that big a gamble. I mean, you might have seen, if you watched the channel, I interviewed a guy called Lachlan, not a couple of weeks back. Scottish guy, same age as me, 53, or I think he might have been 54. And he has done exactly what I would recommend. He has come to the Philippines, and at the moment he's over in Bali, but he's taken a couple of years out to see how things are, get the lay of the land, find out if any of these countries are for him, work out how much it would cost for him to live in these countries, the lifestyle that he enjoys. Because you can only get so much from cost of living videos. You've got to really live in the country and find out how much your costs are going to be. And you can only do that by living here, not in holiday mode. So I asked Lachlan what he would do when he went back. What kind of job was he going to do? What was his plans? He said, you know, whatever would be, something would come along. It always does. And I like that attitude. And I think he's right. I think he will get a job when he goes back to the UK. And I don't think he'll find it that hard. I've always backed myself. If I had to go back, I could get a job. I know I can get a job because, again, if you've watched the channel, I got stuck in the UK a few years back when there was COVID, and I couldn't get back to Thailand. So I took a job as a living carer, and it was fantastic. I really enjoyed the job. The money was great. The lifestyle was great. I mean, I was working as a private carer for a wealthy family, but but I applied for 2 or 3 jobs while I was there because I didn't want to stay with my parents and my house was rented, and I got all 3 job offers. So, and I was in my late 40s then. So I don't think it's as hard as people think, particularly if you are single, a single male. If you are single and you are flexible, in my experience, and not just my experience, also Lachlan's experience, there's work there. You will find jobs. I think this idea that when you're 50 plus, it's hard to get a job. Personally, I think a lot of that is for people who are married, people who can't be flexible, people who've got family, people who've got children. If you are flexible, if you're willing to travel and do things and you can travel, then there's a lot of opportunities out there. A lot of jobs are crying out for people who are able to be flexible, basically. And good paying jobs, surprisingly good paying jobs, in all sorts of walks of life. So I wouldn't let fear put you off doing it. If you're having doubts about moving to the Philippines, and I am not saying for 1 second the Philippines is necessarily the place for you. I'm not saying it's a great place to live. There are a lot of things I dislike about it. The longer I stay here, there are more things I enjoy about the place. It is growing on me, let's just say. But if you're having doubts about coming to the Philippines, you're not 100% sure, then don't do it. Don't do it. If you've only got a couple of years left in your job and you're approaching retirement and it will affect your pension and things, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm not trying to sell anyone on the Philippines. I'm just saying, if you are very, very keen on the idea, it's something you want to do, but the thing that's stopping you is fear, then I wouldn't let that fear stop you. Back yourself. Give it a go. That's my advice for what it's worth, and it's not worth anything. But what's the expression? There's nothing worse than fear itself. A bit of Shakespeare. Better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. I'd go for it. That was the point of that video. It was to give people who were in a situation where they just needed a little push, maybe the push to do it or not. That was the point. But I say, it got me thinking about this idea about how risky and what a gamble it is to come here. And I don't think it has to be. It is for a lot of people, because a lot of people come here and they start playing high stakes poker the moment they arrive. They put down large bets. They make big investments. They gamble on relationships. They get married ever so quickly. They build a house within a few months of getting here. They buy land. They invest in businesses over here. Now, All of these things, I'm not saying don't do it. Who am I to say? I'm just saying, yeah, if you're going to do these things, it is a big gamble. In many ways, if we're using the metaphor, it is high stakes poker. You know, that's the reality. Unless you're got millions and millions of pounds or millions and millions of dollars, investing 100 grand in a business is a big gamble. Building land and buying land and building property is a gamble. If you can afford to walk away from it if it goes wrong, fine, power to you. But you're still gambling. And there will be people who will say in the comments, God bless them, I always get it, and fine, I get your viewpoint. People will say buying a house or building land was the best. I've got one guy, he comments virtually the same every video. Bought a business, built land, etc., etc. Best thing he's ever done. He's got this, got that. Fine. I am sure there are lots of people like you. But equally, there are lots of people who it has been a disaster for, who have ended up in bad relationships, who've lost their houses, or they bought land that didn't turn out to be legally theirs, and then they lost it because of this, etc. I mean, old Paul McGee, Mad Dog, Old Tricks is going through that now. So it's a reality. If you don't think it's a gamble, with the greatest respect, you are delusional. But sometimes gambles pay off. You know, it's high risk, high reward. That is the way the world works. And if you are a gambling kind of guy, you're going to go one or two ways. You're either going to be successful and your gambles are going to work, or they're not. Unfortunately, you're going to come unstuck. But if you are one of those kind of people, then you're not going to listen to me, are you? Because you're not that type of person. And power to you. But to me, I have never looked at moving overseas as a gamble for two reasons. One, I back myself. If I had to go back to the UK and start again, I'd have no qualms of doing that. Say I've been back not so long ago and didn't have any problems then. And I would, if I went back permanently, I would start another business. But the point I'm getting at is, yes, it was a gamble for me to move overseas. It was a gamble to sell the business and come over here. But since I have been in Asia, every day is a gamble. Life is a gamble. But I bet very slow, very small amounts. Everything, I always bet, shall we say, the house minimum. So I can never lose that much. I will never win that much. But I am not playing high stakes bets. I am not playing high stakes poker. And if you're unsure about, you know, the Philippines and things like that, then, you know, moving over here, then that is the advice I would give you. You do not need to rush into a relationship. You do not need to get married as soon as you've met the woman that you think you love. There is no pressure on you to do that other than the pressure you put onto yourself. That is the reality of the situation. If you're worried that you're going to lose her if you don't marry her straight away, or you're going to lose her if you don't buy the land and build the house, then she's not the one for you. I mean, surely. You know, I've always said it, thought the way I look at relationships is to take it as slowly and slowly. And if I'm in a relationship, I think I like someone, I put some distance between us. So Ellen, I went over to Sikil, because it's only when you are apart you can start to realise how you truly feel about someone. So, yeah, it's a gamble coming here. Yeah, you may not be able to get a job easily when you go back to your home country. But equally, you could well have stayed in your home country and lost your job anyway and found it difficult to get another job. I mean, I'm not going to keep going over the old ground because I touched on it in the previous video, but you've got to be in it to win it. You will not know until you come here what opportunities might present themselves to you. You know, you just don't know what's going to happen. You know, right time, right place, all sorts of things. Same with potential partners. If you don't come here, you don't know who you're going to meet. You know, one thing's for certain. If you don't do it, any opportunities that were here for you, you're going to miss them. Now, you could say equally, you might dodge a bullet, but there aren't that many bullets to dodge if you don't commit, if you don't gamble high, if you don't, risk things. So I don't, see it the way a lot of the commenters did in the comments of the last video. But that's just me. But as I say, if you don't come to the Philippines and try it, if you don't take that gamble, then if you are as unhappy as some people seem to be in the West, then you're gambling with your happiness. You're gambling with the fact that you'll ever make it over here. And you're also gambling on the fact, and this was why I'm in the Philippines now, always strikes me as strange, people who you'll meet who've come to somewhere like the Philippines a couple of times, or several times, for a few weeks or a month or whatever, and have then decided that they are convinced that they're going to move here, and they spend the whole of their lives saving to come. Because until you've lived in a place, you really do not know if it's for you, in my opinion. You can't gauge, based on a few months here and there, really, whether it's for you, because places change over time and, things can wear thin, some things can grow on you. So to me, that's a bigger gamble, putting all your eggs in one basket, working and working and working and working and working and saving and coming somewhere, and then finding it's not for you. Because at that age, you will have less options. That's just the reality of life. So to me, that's a bigger gamble. I'm going to stop saying the gambling analogies and that now. But that is just the way I look at it, fellas. Maybe that's just me. But as I say, don't listen to me. My advice is pointless, but I'm going to give you it anyway. Don't be frightened of taking risks. Small risks, not big risks, not life-changing risks, but, as I say, you've got to be in it to win it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. These are all old expressions, wise expressions over the years, and they've carried on because they have meaning. Anyway, I just wanted to address that. Because as I say, I was not surprised. I was just interested that so many comments in that video were, it's a risk, you leave, what will you come back to, etc. Not the way I look at it. I understand entirely why other people will look at it that way. And I'm not a risk taker, as I said. I don't consider myself to be a gambler. I do not expose myself to risks if ever I can avoid it. I get no thrill out of, taking risks, basically. I don't sleep well if I'm worried about things. I look for the quiet life. But anyway, that's enough about that. I think I've made my point. Now, a couple of points. I did a live stream the other day. These are for my regular viewers, subscribers, who I am very grateful for. I did a live stream yesterday, and it was a bit of a disaster. Not a disaster in the sense I didn't really enjoy it and had a great chat with some great people. It was a disaster in the sense that didn't have the live chat when I put it back on the channel, so you couldn't see the live chat. The camera was sideways for the first part. Basically, I do not know what I'm doing when I live stream, but I am not going to be deterred. I am going to plough ahead with this, which is why I'm talking about it now. The plan is to schedule a couple of regular times a week when I do live streams, so people that want to have a chat can have a chat. There's a couple of subscribers who I always talk to, Glenn, Jim. This is for you to let you know if you want to be on the next one, or all of you, basically. Tuesdays, 7 p.m. are going to be the regular, or the first regular slot for a live stream. I'm going to endeavour every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Filipino time, I will do a live stream. I'm going to call it Beer and a Chat, not a coffee and a chat. There's going to be beer and a chat, and it will be an informal talk about things. And as I get better at that, I will, as I master more things, I will probably increase it to twice a week. But I'm not sure when to, what time to do it. 7 o'clock I'm doing because that's usually when I release my videos. But I might do some in the early hours because I'm often up early, because that's more friendly to the American time schedule than 7 p.m. So we'll see. And also there is a power cut or brownout, as we call it, this weekend. So we are booked into, I don't know if we're booked, might just be me because Ellen might go home for the brownout. But basically, I'm booked in a hotel tomorrow night. I'm going to spend Friday night, Saturday in Dumagetti, enjoying the benefits of the power in the hotel. And I will probably try and do a couple of live streams while I'm out and about, just to test, the signals and possible venues and things. So if you see me on live over the weekend, it would be great to have a chat with you. I warn you in advance, there may be technical difficulties. I'm still not sure how I get this live. I had the live chat on the camera when I was talking, but when I uploaded it to YouTube, live chat wasn't part of the function. So I've deleted that video now, it's gone. I will put the next one on, and hopefully, we will overcome these technical difficulties, and we will strive, as we always do, for perfection, and we shall achieve it. But yeah, I don't know when I'm going to do them at the weekend. I don't know if I'm going to do them at the weekend. I am going to try and do them in a few different bars or restaurants I'm in, just so I can find some locations. So if you missed them, I apologise. The reason I haven't announced them or let you know when I'm doing them is because I don't know. That's the reality. I'm not sure where or when I'm going to do them, but I am going to try, touch wood, over the weekend. But if you want to tack next Tuesday, 7 p.m, nailed on, I will be in the kitchen, beer in hand, ready to chew the fat with you. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed, you'd make an old man very happy. Hopefully you can join us for one of the live chats over the weekend, and if not, next Tuesday. Whether you subscribe, whether you like the video, whether you do, whether you don't, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay safe, be lucky.